Hey, it's the Fatboy Show on RX Radio, and 2023 is proving to be a year full of interesting twists and turns and certainly lots of surprises. Many a man has woken up in the morning to be faced with the shock of knowing that the child he thought was his was not his. These are the lies that men suffer with from the ladies that they loved, who tell them one day that, oh, the child isn't yours. Sometimes they tell you out of spite. You know, like after a fight, and she's like, you know what? That kid ain't even yours, so don't even talk to me like that. And a guy goes, it happens a lot, and so this is very sad. Now, the question we like to ask on the Fatboy Show today, Olive, is, and really, mostly, this is a question men should answer, but I'd like to know your thoughts. Do you think a man should take care of his wife's children if he found out that they were not his after she died?
Uh-oh.
So she dies, and then maybe someone comes forward and says, hey, there's a secret I've been dying to tell you. Apparently these kids are not yours. Or maybe someone else claims them or something like that.
Or she makes a dying declaration.
Yes. Should a man take care of those children?
No, I think it goes back to the man, honestly. He has a right to say, I don't want to take care of these children. But at the same time, some people are like, you have bonded with the children, and it depends on how old they are. Sometimes you've raised these kids, maybe they're in their teens, and you've loved them, and they're the only, sense of... they're the only children like you knew you had, and now you find out they are not yours. But you see, some people say that blood is thicker than being relatives. How do they say it? That no, being a parent doesn't necessarily mean being bonded by blood. So it still goes back to the person. Do you love the children enough to go past the betrayal of their mom and take care of them?
I would think, and of course, now that I'm a father, I feel like I would have answered this question more differently from when I was a father, because as you spend time with a child and you're getting closer to it, and it's you're loving it more, and the child is clearly loving you more, and you're bonding and getting close. Like if it one day occurred to me to, like, if I found out, let's say, that it wasn't my child, I don't think you can just switch off your feelings.
Yes,
for the child.
It's like how I've raised my children, and one day I learned that they were switched at birth. Do you know that I may never warm up to the child that is supposedly mine?
Exactly.
Because I've bonded with these ones.
So
I've raised these ones.
Someone one day brings you a biological child. Oh, by the way, this is your kid. She has been living in the village all this time.
Exactly.
You're like, who is this even? You do not relate. You cannot.
Thank you. So there are men who actually decide to continue taking care of these children. Of course, the question was when she dies, but apparently there are men. I had a conversation with some grown gentlemen, and they were like, you know what? It's better not to even find out. And because one guy said children are children, and sometimes you may want to poke your nose into things only to realize that you don't even have any child. Kumbe, unbeknownst to you, you were never able to sire children, and suddenly you feel worthless and empty. So some guys are like, just continue taking care of the children. But like I said, it's not mandatory. No, it depends. Some people love being fathers and love children. It's a hard pill to swallow. That's why I'm like, it goes back to that person and the bond they had with their children. And maybe
I would say if you found out within a few days of the child being born, or a few weeks or months, maybe,
or even a few years, like 3, 5, 7, but the child is let's say 15, 18, that's a lifetime.
And this child loves you, respects you as their parent, calls you daddy. You can't just switch that off.
You can't. And they can actually, maybe you can go through the motions of now just adopting them. Make them yours.
But I would guess the birth certificate would have you as the father.
I don't know how our laws in Uganda work, but what I know for sure is that in the US, for example, if you signed on the birth certificate and find out that the child is not yours, you're still liable. You're supposed to take care of this child and pay child support until they're 18. It matters not whether you were lied to or not.
That is so sad, and I've advocated for mandatory DNA testing.
Same as I.
at the point of birth, like at the hospital. Now, I would think it's maybe so expensive, but if it were not,
it's not.
Really?
It's
DNA
not.
test?
It's about 450,000. Now, that's not little money, but in case that's the one thing that you would want to make you feel all right, then I'm of the... I believe if, let's say it were to be mandatory, then the hospitals would give subsidies so that it is part of the entire package.
Yeah, or maybe the government
will be having many patients.
Maybe the government doesn't tax
the machines. Exactly. So at the end of the day, you're going, because now it's expensive because A, few people do the testing, and B, the machines are very expensive. But now if many people are doing the testing because it is now mandatory, then the hospitals will be making a killing, so it would be reduced. But away from that making a killing, it helps, it serves two sides. You, the man, you know for sure that the child you're raising is yours, and even I as the woman, it helps me not to have to beg a man to believe that this is his child, because there are men who don't take care of kids and they say, first of all, that child doesn't resemble my family,
so like
they don't
he's
have feet like
passive
my mom.
aggressively doubting the child being his.
And sometimes they use that as an excuse to avoid taking care of the child.
All right, that's not good. Certainly that's not good.
Yeah.
So I think you're better off just looking after the kid, especially if you have been doing so
And now
already
that
and you have a relationship. But if you have no relationship and it's so young that it barely even knows you, and someone says it's not your kid, then you ain't gotta deal with it.
And there are some men who knowingly take on ladies when they know. For instance, there are men who meet ladies when they are pregnant, like early months, and she tells him, I'm pregnant, but I separated with the father, and he's like, I'm okay with it. I know a person actually in my family that took on a lady who was pregnant, and they had this child, and then they had other children.
So even he knows it's not his kid.
He knows because when he met her, she was already like 3 months pregnant, and he was okay with it. And the child is like now 13.
So what if the ex comes and claims the child is his?
No, as in the man has no doubt that the child is not his.
I understand, but
the child doesn't know that the man is not his father.
That's what I'm saying. But if the ex came, the actual father came and claimed the child is his,
then they would have to have a conversation, because like we said, this man has already bonded with this child. He has raised him, he's taking care of him, and now the son's mom actually died last year, and the man is still taking care of this boy.
Well, is that good?
It's good. He's being a father.
All right. Well, tell us what you think about this. Certainly, it's a conundrum if I ever heard of one. Because on one hand, once you have a close relationship with a child, you can't just sever it upon finding out that it's not yours. I mean, you are hurt, of course, by the betrayal of your wife or girlfriend.
But now she's dead.
And now you also don't want to hurt the child who's innocent in all this.
Yeah.
Because they're going to feel bad to know that you don't want anything to do with them. So do the right thing.